Hi Geminis, it's Trishna. Welcome to your September to October love tarot reading. So what I'm feeling for you, Gemini, when I feel into your collective energy is I feel like there isn't a lot to say about your relationship right now. And what that basically means is either things are going pretty neutrally in your relationship or things are going really good and there really isn't like a huge problem or anything like that to discuss regarding your relationship. So I know it's like, oh, your relationship's kind of in a boring normal phase, but it's actually kind of good. It's like for positive reasons. So that's what I'm kind of feeling into your energy. So I think that's actually very good, Gemini. When I look into the cards, the first card we have is a Seven of Wands, and I feel like this represents your past. And for some of you, it could be the near past, but I feel like for a lot of you, it could be much further in the past, like maybe a year ago, where in your relationship there was a lot of struggle, there was a lot of fighting, or you felt like you really needed to fight in your relationship, or really had to stand up for yourself, or like really had to make some tough decisions. The next card that we have is a Three of Cups. And I feel like what this is saying is like you soon learned, or like maybe within 6 months of there being this struggle that you thought was there, within 6 months of that at least, you kind of realized that whatever you were fighting over, or whatever you thought you needed to fight for, or whatever issues you thought that existed, you realized that they weren't really true, or they weren't really accurate, or they didn't really play out, or they didn't really end up being very important. And so it's kind of like you had all this struggle and then it was like, oh, like I didn't have to worry about that. I was so stressed about all of these things and it turned out that I just didn't really have to worry about that. Like I maybe saw things differently, or I saw things in the right way, but the outcome of that wasn't as bad as like I thought it was going to be. So something kind of happened in that sense where there was a lot of struggles, and then it was like, oh, okay, well, somehow it all worked out, and that's awesome. And the final card we have is the Page of Wands. And I think what you've really learned through all of this, and the lesson that you're going to be carrying into your other relationships, like your friendships and maybe your family relationships, and especially like your relationships with your colleagues, is you really learned like that maybe there were certain factors that were good factors, but maybe there were certain factors that you used to measure the success of certain situations or certain relationships. And when you saw certain things happening, you knew in your mind, or you thought you knew in your mind, that, oh, this means that this person doesn't care about me. This means that they don't love me. This means that we're not going to work out. This means that they're going to break up with me. This means I'm going to have to break up with them. Something, you would see these factors and it would automatically make you think that XYZ was going to happen. And it was very, for you, it felt very logical, very like, when this happens, of course it means this. So you had a certain way of measuring the world and measuring the success or the outcomes of things that were happening in your life. And now with this Page of Wands, you're realizing, and like with everything that's happened where you did that and then it turned out that what you thought was going to happen didn't happen, something better happened, your expectations were negative and then they ended up being like, oh, I should have been expecting the positive, maybe. So through all of this, you've learned that the way that you've been measuring things, like, yeah, maybe it was a really good system in the past, but maybe in the future, or maybe in your current reality, or like the way that you're creating a reality, your story going forward through your internal energy, maybe the way that you've been measuring things isn't really the right way that you need to measure things anymore. Maybe like you need to look at things differently or consider different factors, or maybe have more positive expectations. You may have had a lot of negative expectations about things in the past that were, you have those negative expectations because your past before that, XYZ meant ABC was going to happen. So you carried those kinds of lessons with you into this relationship. So when XYZ happened, you expected ABC to happen, but instead DEF happened, and DEF was pretty good. And so now you're just like, okay, like what I came into this relationship with, the lessons that I learned previously that helped me predict the outcome of this, they are no longer valid. And now you're realizing I need new factors. And instead of assuming the worst, like I've had to do in the past, now I can assume the best. And now you're realizing that that is a lesson you can take into your work relationships or your friendships, where it's like, hey, I know this person's acting like this, and normally I would expect that they're out to get me, or that they're going to stab me in the back at work, or that they think negatively about me. But now I know that like I don't have to expect that. That's not always the case. Just because somebody acts a certain way doesn't mean that that aligns with how they truly feel deep down. It may just be this momentary feeling that they have, and momentary feelings aren't the weight of the person. They're just temporary, they're momentary. So I hope this is making sense, Gemini, but like what you've learned in this relationship, you're kind of you're taking those lessons and applying them, or looking at your other relationships in life in a different way, in a more positive way, in a more productive way, in a way where you can shape better outcomes for yourself, because now this past with your current partner has taught you that you can expect positive things even when it doesn't look that way on the surface. So I hope this is helpful, Gemini. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in having a deep dive tarot session with me, you can find more information on that in the description box below. Be sure to give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.